Okay, so here we are, part 3 of this little Mustang build. Okay, so it's not brilliant, it's got problems, we need to fix it. So we're trying to work out why we've got the gaps, whilst we've got problems. We've got some little fit issues, you might notice them. The big ones we're going to take care of, obviously, is around about this entire tail. So we've got this gap down here we need to get rid of. The tail doesn't sit together, the wingtips don't go together, and we've got this front cowl. The rest of it, actually, isn't too bad. Okay, they're all little tiny things, but they are the major type problems. Some of it is like this bottom one you can see down here, is just because there's no glue and it physically can't go together. Also, you've got these wing areas down here at the bottom which are always pushing it apart and wanting to sort of, you know, push it out of the way and everything else. So that's what we're trying to fix on this issue. So the first one we're going to take care of is obviously this tail, to work out exactly what is going on down here at the back. Now a lot of this, again, I think is just tiny little bits of flash and various things in here, so that's what we're going to do. We're not going to need to physically open this thing up, which is a good thing. So what we're going to do, we're just going to take some extra thin, okay, and we're just going to let the capillary action do all the work, and we're just going to drop it in the gap, okay, and then we're just going to lightly brush it around, just to encourage any sort of problem areas that we might have in there, just to perhaps give up their problem. Okay, so again, just that's going to be too much glue, so it's just knowing what you've got on the brush, and we're just going to knock that on. And again, we're just trying to fill up and then weld up the joins. Okay, now this will evaporate, so don't think, wow, you've just filled it up with glue and you're going to have a big glue mark. Trust me, this stuff is good. That's what it says on the tin, and it will go. Now again, we've got the same problem under here, so we're just going to come in and we're going to glue. So we're just tapping and letting capillary action do all the work of going off. Bit of a squeeze, and when you squeeze it, brush it afterwards, you'll get rid of any glue mark that you might have had. Okay, same goes on the other side. And the weld action glue works great, because what will happen is it will just go in and it will just fill up and take care of. But also the big thing is it's not messy, because the capillary action goes off and zips around and does everywhere. Now the same with this tail. So we're just going to put some glue very lightly down in there. Then I'm not going to use my fingers, because in case we've got glue anywhere, I'm just going to grab it with a pair of scissors, grabbing, not cutting, grabbing. Okay, and then that will just squeeze it together and just bring it into exactly where we want, without any mess or anything else like that. So I'm just going to put a little bit more in this area up here. And we're just going to come in. Got a little bit of a spread issue down the back here, so I'm thinking it may be pushing and pulling and everything. And this is the trouble with using no glue. All those little things where it just holds together, it knits together and all those things, you don't have. So by doing it this way, it should just hold it in. But using scissors means no glue marks. So if you're using pegs, you get the capillary action runs around the peg, you get a big glue mark. This, you'll get hardly any, it'll be a slice. So we just hold it there for a second, just to get that to bite in just a little bit, and then hopefully, still not wanting to go 100%. But that's in there a lot better. So now what we can do is just come up with the rudder, and hopefully now this will sit in. Again, it's always pulling apart just a little bit. You can hear it. This is what we need to deal with. So what we're going to do is I'm going to add a lot more glue in there. Okay, and we're going to grab, I think, just a peg, tweezers. And I'm thinking, just trying to get it all to sit in here and everything else like that. I'm just looking at the best options and best grip points. So that's on there. Then we're just going to come in with a peg, just to try and pull in. Actually, it's something's given. There must have been something in there, because now it's playing ball and going in. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue up this tail, and we're going to fit the rudder in. which has never gone in before. And again, both sides just from the tail of the rudder. I'm going to let that just capillary action run down. And that is giving us a better line, as you can see down the back here, on both sides. So that's cured that little problem. That's one done. Now obviously we've got various wet bits as we're going on this, so we're just trying to find different areas. Now one of the big ones we've had is this gun issue with these going up and pushing in. Again, I think these are, it's more a case of glue will hold, and also the thing is glue by its nature will just hold everything in there. Okay, so we're just going to come in. Okay, and then we're just going to track capillary action, everything else around, getting it down in there. Same for the underside. Okay, just down in those. So that's that one done. That's better fit. And again, this guy, we know there's no physical fit problem, it's just not wanting to go in. So we're just checking everywhere on here. So I'm just going to take out little tiny bits here and there where I'm just thinking maybe, just maybe, we've got a little problem. So again, just going to come in with some glue. Lots of glue around this front, because the glue's going to weld and join and stick everything down here. Well, that's the theory. Okay, so once that's on, we can push this in, and then again, you can see it's holding its own now, but the glue's just welding it in. We've got those little tab marks, which is gonna, how much nicer has that gone in now? Okay, so we're happy with all of that. The wingtips, usual thing, hold it upside down, tap it in from the underside. It gets absorbed up inside, and then you just come along with your scissors and you cut. Well, not cut, but squash. Okay, again, not using your fingers, otherwise you end up with various marks. And just let it evaporate. Okay, and then what we do, we just use some more glue just to help it track and go around all its areas. Okay, and then what we're going to do, just on the leading edge, just brushing underneath like this, tapping the underside and dragging it along, and that'll just take the capillary action right the way along. And we're just going to do this side as well, and then the wingtip, and repeat on the other side. Okay, just the way. And this will be literally just a 10-minute job to fix all the little problems we've had with this particular bird. Okay, so we're just going to touch and drag. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue just up in this aileron, purely because it rattles around. Okay, so that's that one done. So that's all of the back end done. All of those areas. We've got a little bit, tiny gap down here on the tail. So again, upturning, absorb in, and then bite. Okay, just hold it, taking care of the gaps. Again, this was never going to be a problem to fix any of this. It was only going to be a quick fix, but it was just annoying how we had them. Okay, so that's really good with all of those. Now I'm pushing my luck now by just pushing down in here, but we're just going to come into this bottom area. So again, we just need to work out exactly what's going on down here with these guns. That one's fine on that side. This side just needs to push in up to this edge. Okay. So we're just going to do one side at a time. So we're just doing this leading edge rim route. Okay, touch underneath. Touch. And then in with the scissors. Okay. And then same on this side. Again, the great thing about holding it upside down is it doesn't suddenly track off, so it doesn't suddenly run down the back of the wing over your finger, and before you know it you've got trouble because you're all over the place. Okay, just a couple of seconds, and then again capillary action just right over both parts. That takes care of those. A little bit of glue just tracking up here. And again, just along these joints. Okay. Again, it's all to do with pressure. Squashing together, welds it, holds it, makes it stronger. All the time this had no glue in it, it was just waiting to fall apart, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the tyres off the hubs and off the tail and everything else like that. We're going to take the glass off when we can get round to it in a minute, okay? We'll take care of that, and then we're going to mask up obviously all the glass work, then we'll refit it all together, put the tail planes on and things like that, and then we're going to then go round, let this dry for a good couple of hours, sand, deburr all the corners, all the edges, everything else like that, and we'll take care. But this front one, to be honest, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think it's just literally, I can see the problem, it's this gap down here, just need to be tightened in a bit. It'll pull down the other gaps as well, so that's all there is, just needs a tiny bit of sanding just down in there. All right, so join me back in a couple of hours and we'll have this ready for paint. Okay, so with the model all basically done, just needs a little bit of a sand over and a quick scrape round, but it's looking really, really nice. Now we can turn our attention onto this. Now, as you might notice, this has got, as you can see, a very nice centre seam running down the middle, which we've got to get rid of. And to be honest, this one is awful. As you can see, it's pretty well cracked and shattered looking right the way down there. Not nice at all. Now, it doesn't appear to go all the way through because I can't feel it on the inside. So what we're going to try and do is repair that. So because I'm a klutz and I've broken more screens than I'd care to remember, what we've actually got is a bit of tack. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're just going to lightly mould into the shape of the canopy, and then we push it in. Now, don't go ramming it in there, because all you're going to do is crack it doing it that way. This is just to hold it, so when you're squashing it together, it's pushing against the actual plasticine, or white tack in this case. Also, it can be a little bit easier to hold it using this as well. So always use an oversized piece, and then you can obviously do what we've done here. We're going to add a little bit to it, just so it's easier to grip onto, so you're not squeezing and putting pressure down on these side bits. Now, tools wise, sanding sticks, I like to use skinnies because they're more accurate. You can get in there. So this is the medium one, so you've got a fine side and a coarse side. Technically, you're only going to use the fine side. If you want to use just a fine skinny, that's absolutely fine, or a fine sanding stick. The other thing as well, we've got actually a skinny polisher. So this has actually got the equivalent of like wet and dry paper on one side, and it's got a very fine grit on the other. We've got an old sanding sponge. Okay, to be honest, this is the one I sand paint with. Okay, so we use it for that one, and we have a polisher, the all-important polisher, which is going to do all the work. Okay. So you can come in with a deburring tool as well if you wanted to, one of these, and you can physically scrape away at the line just to take off the raised part. Now, you could use the edge of a knife or whatever you wanted to do with it. Okay, and all you're doing is just taking off the actual first part. Okay, it's not necessary to have this, but it does help out. Okay, so you can do that. Then you're in with the sanders. So to start with, we're just going to use the fine side. We are literally very lightly just going to go over this. So what I'm going to do is, just for the moment, I'm going to take this out so you can see what I'm doing here better. All right, but normally I would use tack, and I'd recommend everyone uses tack. So what you're doing now is taking out the line. So what you want to do is sand this lightly. Don't push down, because you're going to put huge scratches in it. Just let the sander roll over the top, and you're looking to see the line disappear. Okay, so we just want that center seam to physically go. That's all we want to do, okay? And we can see it there. If you want to check it, if you wet your finger, pop it along, you can normally see it in there still, okay? And as that dries, it will come back. You can see. So now what we've done, we've taken out the center seam, but we've got to repair the damage we've now caused to the clear part, okay? Now I said, normally put tack in there, but this way you can see exactly what I'm doing. So what we're going to start with is the old sanding sponge, okay? So we're just coming across, and again, we're not pushing down, we are lightly going over. And every time we do this, we're going to go slightly further out to the sides, all right? So that way we know we're getting rid of all the scratches, okay? So we're just going over and we're just lightly sanding, and the sander does all the work for us, okay? So what we've done now is take out those scratches that were caused by this with this one, okay? That's all it is. So there we're just going to come in, and again going a little bit further each side than actually we wanted. We'll just go over with this, okay? So then you're looking down to look to see if you've got any big scratches in there, because we don't want obviously any big scratches. Okay, happy with how that is now, all right? So then we're just going to come in with this one. Now this has got a sanding side, but all we're going to use is the thinner side of it, okay? So to start with, we're going to use it dry. And again, going in the same directions, it doesn't make any difference. We're just going over. And what you should be getting is the fuzziness is looking more sort of lighter colour each time you go over it, okay? So that's literally it. So we're just going to pop down in here. Because all you're doing is actually removing the scratches with every pass you do. So you're looking to see if there's any of those scratches left in there, and if there is, you can take care of them. Now this one as well, with all the sanders, you can use wet as well. Alrighty. And there's that literally just like that. Okay. So next up, we're going to use the polisher. All right. So with the polisher, you've got the blue side, which has actually got impregnated into it a cleaning and a polishing compound as well. The white side has nothing, but the white side is the one that does all the work. That's the incredible side. Okay. So we use this one. Okay. So we're just going to take it white side, dry for the minute, and we're just going to lightly rub over this. And what you're looking for is any scratches in there, because we want all the scratches out. And as I said, each time we do this, with every pass, it should just get lighter and lighter. You see, doing slightly little round motions all the way around. And to be honest, I'm doing this really slowly so you guys can see it. Normally I'd hit this a lot quicker, harder, firmer. Okay, so when you're looking at it now, it's almost just fuzzy. You can start to see through it. Okay, so we're looking at it, we're looking for scratches. Okay, we can't see any scratches, we're all looking very nice. So what we're going to do now is just going to add a little bit of moisture to this. Okay, and to be honest, I've just wet it with my finger. And then we're going to use this, use the older bit, okay, and this will then release a compound from the sponge onto the area. You can probably hear it. So this will then, and you can see it on here now, and it's being released out of the fabric that's on here. And this will then, again, you're just micro polishing right the way around, taking out all the scratches as you make your way around. And what will happen is, as it starts to dry, because obviously it's being worn off and you give it a wipe, it will start to polish. And you can probably see now it's starting to get clear. Okay, and as I say, again, I'm taking it really easy so you guys can see it transform in front of your eyes. Okay. Okay, and as you can see, it's getting clearer, but it's just got a little bit of cloudiness left in there. Okay. Then we come over to the miracle bit, which is the white side, which everyone thinks doesn't do anything, but if you watch, we will then show you. So again, we're just going over, and we're just going to do the back part first. A couple of light rubs, and you can see how it's going clear. And we'll work our way around the sides, over the top. And then what's going to happen is, this is starting to get in here, and as I say, you can start to go at this, and we're going to start to listen for it squeaking. When it's squeaking, it means it's very highly polished, because it's obviously got great friction between the two. It's starting to, you'll feel it start to bite. And to be honest, I don't really dip canopies anymore. I tend to do this with it. You can hear it squeaking. And there is our canopy minus a centre seam. Now you could carry on doing this, and to be honest it's steamed up a bit in the inside from my finger, but hopefully you can see we have no centre seam and it is beautifully polished. But what you want to do is just carry on and just do around. We've got the nub there for the aerial coming out and things like that for the wire, but generally you can see now taking care of the centre seam for 5 minutes work. And to be honest, I would normally do that in about a quarter of the time it took me just then. And then you pop this on, and there's our canopy fitted, all ready to go, all polished up. And to be honest, I now polish canopies and never dip them, purely because dipping, it then affects when you do masking and things like that over them. This way you don't have a problem with it. So that now is ready just to be masked up, put the tape on there, everything else like that, and we can get it over to the spray booth and start to get it painted. So exactly the same time, if you wanted to, you could use a deburring tool like we got here, but you can just scrape the areas just off the leading edges of the wings, just to clean them up all the way around. Okay. Or you could sand them just to taper them in. So we've got nicer joins, because it's got these across the top of the thing. But we're going to go over this with, to be honest, some black primer, and we're going to use Tamiya because it's great and it will cover everything. It'll get rid of all the nasties, but a quick sand over just to blend in these edges, making sure they're all taken care of, and everything else like that. So really happy with that. Alright, so now this is ready. To be honest, we'll get that masked up, same way as we did the front, and then we'll get it over into the spray booth, and we'll get the primer onto it. Okay, so over in the spray booth we have done, and we've masked up the actual canopy, so we're all done just like that, no problem at all. So for this we're going to use my old favourite way of doing this, which is Tamiya X1. Now this is the gloss black. Okay, we thinned it with a little bit of self-leveling thinners to give us our best chance. This will give us a great black finish for obviously the inside of the canopy work, onto the model for the metallizer to show through, but also it's great as a primer to get rid of all the little scuffs and joins and everything else like that, the little marks on here that sometimes can be a little bit of a problem. So we'll just check our flow. Happy with that. Now it's a standard 50-50 mix that I do for all of my stuff, so we just flip over under here, and what we're going to do is literally just come in and just put this on. Doesn't have to be too fancy or anything else like that, we just want it to be smooth. Okay, so usual thing, just take your time, build it up, get down a little light dusting coat first, but your final one you want it to look wet, so then that way it will be glossy and a nice shiny finish, literally just like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, we're going to hit the extractors and we're going to put a coat of this on. Okay, so over in the spray booth, we have our Mustang looking really, really nice, lovely in the gloss black. Now we're going to use MRPs. Now I've never done MRPs on a sole metallizer job like this before, so we're having a look through the colours. Now the thing is, obviously different manufacturers, different colour call-outs, different naming for things. So obviously if you put aluminium, steel, stainless steel, you know, sort of gunmetals, those type of colours together, you're always going to get different shades between each one. And because this is a new thing and I haven't tried these before, it's looking to see roughly what type of colours we're going to be going with. So we've got some nice stuff down here. We've got like exhaust metal. That one's quite nice. You can see it's got a fleck in there, which once that's all sort of gone in, it will give us that sort of, you know, that manifold type of colour. We've got gunmetal. Again, you can see that sort of bronzy look in that one as well. Okay. Obviously we won't be using these. Okay, we've got steel, which looks very, very nice, but as you can see, it looks very dark on the top. Obviously all of these need a damn good mix, as we know it is the secret to these, but you can see probably, hopefully, the pigment actually is extremely fine. These things are like ink to spray, which makes them absolutely beautiful. Okay, but again, I think steel might be a bit dark, but it might be for some of the others. One of the colours we're thinking about using is the Dural Aluminium. It is one of my favourites with other manufacturers. I do like it in Vallejo's metals that they do, and obviously with AK Extreme Metals as well. So that is definitely a paint of choice that we could use. The dark aluminium, obviously it's a standard type of metallic, as you can see. Again, needs a damn good mix up before we can make a decision exactly if we're going to use it or not. Okay. And so what we'll do, we're just going to give these a start of a good mix. Chances are we're going to put the mixer in here to go through. White aluminium looks to be pretty much the paint of choice at the moment, what I'm looking at, because that looks like pretty much a nice silver colour. Very nice colour, that one. We've got titanium. Again, you've got that sort of gold fleck running through titanium. Again, might be okay for some picking out of panels, things like that, but generally it's not a titanium finish on these aircraft, so we'll be putting him off to one side. Oxidized, you know, the metallizer ones we used a lot. We're getting quite low on it. We've got probably about a quarter of a bottle in there again. That one's like a real greeny hue, as you can see, so we're probably not going to be using that one. Silver, obviously you'd think. Again, that might be another one, but hopefully, or I'm hoping it's not going to be too strong, because obviously with a silver, you want it to sort of give a nice finish right the way over it without it being too in your face. We don't want it getting near looking like chrome, which has obviously been one of my little concerns when we've been using the AK Extreme Metals, that they really are very, very bright. Burnt iron again, which is a nice colour for doing anything exhaust wise, or nozzles, things like that. It has that real nice bronze type of colour running right the way through it, that sort of browny hue. Again, a really nice colour, but obviously not for us. So really these are our paints we're thinking about using, okay, for doing it. So obviously we're going to pick out different panels, but first of all we need an overall colour. So are we going to go with something like the dull aluminium, or the dark aluminium, or the Dural aluminium? So what we're going to do is just going to shake these right up. And what I'm going to probably do is actually spray the fuel tank to see, one of these drop tanks we've got over here, to see which one I prefer. Now looking at them, as you can probably see, there doesn't look like there's much to it. Okay, they both do look quite dark in colour, that is my only thing. So I'm actually thinking maybe we're going to try the white aluminium. I'm going to be more inclined to go with white aluminium. Looking at these now, we've had a good mix. This has still got a mixing to go at the bottom, but I'm pretty sure the white aluminium is going to be the way to go. Or we've got the silver. The silver is probably going to go, but I want it to have that sort of metal hue, more of a metal hue. So I'm thinking the white aluminium. So looking at it and seeing how this is mixing up, because it's pretty good mix in this one, I think this is where we're going to go. So we'll stick our neck on the block a little bit. Okay, so we're just going to see if I've got a spare pipette here. That will be fine. Okay. So what we've got here is our usual, we've got our Infinity airbrush. Okay, this has got the 0.2 needle set in it. It's got the pinch clean cap on there and everything else like that. All right, so I'm thinking this is how we're going to go. So usual thing, we're just going to put a little bit of thinners in here just to blow through. And we can listen to it, make sure it's sounding good. Got no problem with that at all, so I'm just going to retreat that back in the cup. We'll keep him blow that through. Okay, get ourselves nice and organised. So we've got some paper towel where we need it. We've got everything to hand. So we're going to have nothing which we need to suddenly move around, all right, or anything else like that. So let's give this a go. So what we're going to do is we're going to undo the top. Okay, we're just going to pop in, forget that one, it's gone. That one's okay. So what we're going to do, we're not going to need gallons of this stuff, we're just going to put a couple of small pipettes just in here, just to see exactly what we've got. We're going to pop the lid on. This stuff is extremely thin. As I say, describe this stuff in one word, I would say ink. Okay, so we've got that, so we're just going to check our flow. You can hear it's having no trouble spraying this. What I'm going to do is turn down the air pressure until it doesn't appear to be struggling. Okay, so you turn your air pressure right the way off and bring it back, and when it sounds quite nice and we don't have a problem with it, we should be fine. So just for the second, we're just going to try it on these little guys. Okay, so very lightly, we're just going to build up colour. You can probably hear, you can hardly hear the actual airbrush struggling just a little bit, so we're just going to up it just a little bit. Cut into air, dry this down. Now this is a very, very glossy surface, so paints will naturally have trouble sticking to it with the first pass, okay? Okay, so we're just going to lightly dusting, plating almost coats right the way over it. So it's still looking very nice and shiny. Okay, so we're just going to cut to air, just drying this down. This will dry almost immediately. It is a lacquer after all. So we're just looking around on this, and to be honest, I'm looking at it and it's looking just a little bit gritty, for want of a better word. Okay, now so that may be I've not got enough air pressure to lay it down nicely. So what we're going to do is we'll come off of that one, we'll try another one. Okay, this is a little bit higher air pressure, and we're just going to try and, I'm going to say this is the first time I've properly sprayed this stuff, so we are experimenting together almost. It also may be a case of the thinners in the airbrush we had before. Sometimes it can be thinning the paint just a little bit too much. So now I'm just laying on a couple of coats, quite wet, one after the other. So it's got time all to melt in. Okay. And also it may be this thing where it will come back once it starts to dry. So we just cut into air. And again, you might see you've got little spots appearing on it where it's having trouble gripping. And I'm not exactly a fan with that, I must admit. So what we're going to do, we're going to dry this guy down. Now this is not something I haven't had before with other manufacturers of paint. Okay, so we're just going to see if I can cover. So what I'm doing now is I'm just trying different techniques. So this is more of a heavy, more of a defined, right, that's it, we're putting this down, heavy, positive coat of paint. Okay, so actually I would say I'm using a lot of paint doing that. And again, we've got a little bit of spotting coming through. The texture isn't exactly what I would call great, and that's because now we've put down a really heavy coat of paint. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab a hairdryer and we're just going to pop this in. I'm going to hit the extractor at the same time because it's getting a little bit smelly in here. Oh, well. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this up here. Hopefully you can see it. It's physically coming off. Okay, it's peeling back and bleaching back. Now this could be a case of that it's not liking going over the black acrylic finish we've got down in here, and it's wanting to sit on something a little bit nicer. Whichever way it is, I don't like that at all. In fact, I really don't like that. It's not a nice finish. Again, it may be one of those things, just going over what it's going over. It's not liking going over this, but this is totally dry. It's no problem at all. I've had no problems with anything else going over it. Okay, so this is the white aluminium. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip this back. Well, actually there's not a lot to tip back because we've used quite a bit of it. Okay, so I'm just going to offload the colour cup. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're going to try a different colour just to see what we've got. Okay, so I'm going to try the silver, and to be honest, we're going to give this the best possible chance. We're going to come in here with a mixer. Okay. Again, we're just going to get rid of that. Grabbing one little ladle full because I don't want to waste any more than we need to. And we're just going to try a different colour right over the top. And then what we're going to do, we're going to try it on something else. Okay, so let's just try this in here. Just to see if it is the paint colour. It could be, you know, heaven forbid, but it has happened in the past, a bad bottle. I'm not one to immediately dismiss something unless I've fully tested it and tried it, as you know. Okay, so let's just see if we can cover that bad spot. Okay, gonna have to hit the extractor in a second. The thing is, I don't want to start covering my model in this if it's just gonna give us a real problem. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we'll hit the extractor, dry it off, see what we got. Okay, so those aren't too bad at all. They're coming back in. What we're going to do, just to give this a fair try, I think what we'll do, we're going to have a go with the silver just on the bottom. And we'll see exactly what it's got. Right, let's give this a fair try. Air pressure a little bit high, just knocking that back just a little bit. Okay, what we're going to do very lightly.
coat. It actually looks really nice there. I don't know quite why it didn't like the just working down these flats. Seems to be okay now, so we're just gonna overcoat. So we're not trying to flood or go in anywhere too heavy or anything else like that. We are literally just trying to build up a layer. And as you can see, it looks like it's covering down there very nice. So we're just a little bit concerned about why it's covering very nice one way and not another. Okay, but actually very happy with how that's covered. No problem with any of that at all. That's a very nice, strong, I would say aluminium finish. So we're just going to pop it down. Okay, so we don't have a problem with that. So all we're going to do is just reload up. Just do the top half. Okay, check our flow. Happy. See, it goes down very nice, no problem at all. Just trying some different styles of spraying this, so we're doing some heavy, some light. Just to try and work out which one is working best. There we go. Very nice. So we're just sitting down there. I think one more little colour cup. We'll redo those drop tanks. Okay, right, let's try these fuel tanks again. So we know it's not the acrylic coat because the aircraft's fine. Just some reason the drop tanks. Now it could be a multitude of problems. It could be anything from. It could be. Let me just turn this off. Extractor off. It could be when you're doing something like this as simple as there was something in the airbrush and it didn't like it. We did blow it out with self-leveling thinner, so I don't think it's that. It could have been something just in the pipette it didn't like or anything else. It's very difficult to know. Whilst the fuel tanks it didn't like, but actually doing the plane it had no problem at all. And hopefully you can see, I know this is all going to be a little bit wet, but there we go. We are looking very nice indeed. Nice metal finish right the way over, and again it's basically getting dry to touch. We'll be able to do a lot of things with this one. The big thing we haven't tried with this ever is trying to mask it, so we don't know how it's going to affect with tape. Does it need to have a seal coat down before we come in? Is it going to be resistant? My gut feeling is it's not. It's going to hate it. So when we come down to putting things like the invasion stripes, different colours of panels, things like that in there, I think it's going to really struggle. But, okay, it's a bit of a workout for this. We haven't tried this stuff before. It's all an unknown, and that's what it's all about.